Warning. You're about to enter the arena and join the battle to save America with your host, Sean Parnell.
Good evening, America. Welcome to Battleground Live. This is the show where we kick ass and we take names and we lock horns with the radical left. We never quit. We never surrender. From sea to shining sea and everybody in between. Welcome, Patriots, on this glorious Friday. And thank God it's Friday. Tonight, we've got the great and we've got the powerful Bryan Dean Wright on deck, and we are very excited to talk with him about a whole host of things. Got some serious stuff to talk about that you all need to be aware of in the loop as we go into the weekend, but we're also going to talk about some positive stuff and even break down some of the Make America Healthy Again agenda to make sure that you are looped in on all the right stuff going into the holiday. As always, folks, make sure you like and rumble, smash that like button, that little green thumb beneath the video, smash it. We made the leaderboard last night. Actually, we made the leaderboard every single night for the last 3 weeks. And I'd like to make it again on our last show going into the holidays. Don't forget that I am off next week. It's the first week I've taken off in 2 years. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle myself. I don't take vacations. In fact, you want to say it's it's actually the first week that I've taken off in years and years. Because I even when the family goes on vacations, even when we could afford to do that, I still usually work through the vacations. It's just the nature of it back in the day being self-employed, but then now doing a show. Been doing the show for just over a year now. For the last 2 years, we haven't been able to afford taking a vacation. And so this is kind of like a staycation. We'll be with the family and just trying to be fully there and dedicated to the kids, be present for them throughout the holidays. So I say all this to say I'm not quite sure on if I'm going to do a good job being able to take some time off. So help me out, smash that like button. And I want to say right off the top, I'm getting multiple flags here from Aunt Cindy, 2RM. Listen, thank you all for the tips. The Rumble Rant tips are unbelievable. The generosity that you all have shown me is unbelievable. And 2RM said, Matthew 1:23, behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is interpreted, God is with us. Regina, thank you so much. Said, Merry Christmas to Sean, Melanie, and all the battle crew. And Dory, you all are the best. Merry Christmas to all at Fort Parnell. Enjoy your Christmas break, and we will all be here when you come back. Listen, that means a lot in this business. People don't get to take a whole lot of time off. And, I'm very thankful and generous thank you all for your generosity. I don't even know what to say. I'm just blown away by your kindness. You all have become a family. SMP 32. I see you. Thank you so much. Say Merry Christmas, everyone. You all are the best family in the world. I don't even know what to say other than just thank you. I'm just blown away. I'm just so blown away. And as always, just so you're all tracking, 100% of what we get and what we raise is going right back into the studio. And I have to say, over the next couple of days, when I'm taking this week off, listen, I said I was taking the week off, but I'm also going to be working on the studio. I don't consider working on the studio work. It's actually fun for me to try to give you all a better quality viewing experience. And so I'm going to be trying to clean up the studio a little bit, do some wire management, make sure everything is just easier, maybe give you a better quality camera shot. I don't know, but try to make the studio better. But 100% of the tips that we get in the live chat all go to giving you all a better experience. That is my pledge and promise to you all. But thank you, Battle Crew, from the bottom of my heart for these Rumble Rant tips. You really, truly are the best. I know that I'm speaking for both Commander Melanie and I and my entire family when I say that you all are members of our family. We spend an hour with you every single day, and that's pretty awesome, powerful stuff. Okay, so let's get to the some of the headlines right at the top. We got lots to talk about today before we go into the holidays. So just in, as of this afternoon, there was a handshake deal for a $2.5 trillion in mandatory savings for $1.5 trillion in debt limit increases. Of course, you all know that the budget debate is going on this time of year. It always goes on this time of year. Democrats and Republicans, they wait to the last minute. They hold the nation hostage. They threaten a government shutdown. Also, these members of Congress can fill these continuing resolutions with pork, their pet projects, federal funding, spending your taxpayer dollars on nothing but fluff. Well, this year, Donald Trump actually stepping into the limelight, acting as president before he's president, put a stop to that. So we went from a 1,547-page bill. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, even though Elon Musk just, he's not an elected official, but Donald Trump's the real one calling the shots. I'll have to give you my thoughts here on Elon Musk in a second. But Trump comes in and says, no, there's too much pork in here. Not a good time to ask for raises. The American people are suffering. We're not, you ain't getting raises, right? He's absolutely right. So the bill goes from 1,547 pages to 115 pages. And now this new proposed bill is 118 pages. So again, clearly some stuff was added back in, but not that much. So in the third plan, what we will get right now, I haven't read the full bill, but it looks like a funding extension until March, which is essentially kicking the can down the road. $110 billion for disaster relief and farmers. The demand to raise the debt ceiling is gone, and Republicans are bickering among themselves. I think Mike Johnson's play here is that he knows he's going to have enough Democrat votes to offset the Freedom Caucus guys who won't vote for it to get the ball across the goal line. So we'll see. Now, here's the deal, folks. There was some whisperings on Capitol Hill, and I called a couple of my buddies down there to confirm that they were going to propose and roll out each individual bill. Disaster relief, a farm aid bill, individual packages, vote on them individually. Let me tell you something, folks. Politically speaking, not only do I agree with it philosophically, the American people should know what their members of Congress are voting on. We shouldn't have to guess as to what's in a 1,547-page bill and have less than 2 days to read it. That's ridiculous. No serious nation can do business like that. But I love the idea of individual bills being proposed and then those individual bills being voted on. And here's why it's genius at this point in time. The Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to continue spending like a teenager with a credit card. You propose these individual bills. Let Democrats vote against disaster aid relief. Let Democrats vote against a farm bill. Let Democrats vote against all these things, get them on the record, and hammer them politically in the midterms. That would be the smart thing to do. But it looks like Speaker Johnson is taking the easier path. He wouldn't be taking the easier path unless he thought that he had Democrat votes to do it. But here's all this said, all this politicking in the House. Not going to matter when it comes to the Senate because Chuck Schumer has said government's getting shut down unless he gets the 1,547-page bill. So I saw this post on Twitter or X written by a guy, an anonymous guy named Unseen, but it was so well written. I'm just going to read it to you because it breaks down what's happening with this debt ceiling stuff in a very clear, concise way. And I thought it was so good that I want to read it to you. He says, let me explain the debt ceiling to you since it's pretty clear most have no idea what's going on. As of now, there is no debt ceiling. Let me repeat for all those true conservative supporters, as of right now, there is no debt ceiling. The debt ceiling was suspended back in June of 2023. As of now, as of January 1st, 2025, the debt ceiling will return and it will be whatever it was when it was suspended, plus whatever spending Biden and the Dems did since June of 2023. That new debt ceiling is estimated to be hit by June of 2025, if not earlier. What the CR wanted to do is push the redemption of the debt ceiling back for 2 years. This would allow massive tax cuts that Trump wanted to make, things like no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, a 15% tax break for companies who built here, and to stop the Trump tax cuts from expiring. He says, you see, the government idiots consider tax cuts as government spending. It's a very important nuance. So if you do $4 trillion in tax cuts, the government considers that $4 trillion in spending. The debt ceiling redemption on January 1st will make Trump have to figure out how to pass the tax cuts without going over the debt ceiling and triggering a default. And then he says, do you get it now? By not moving on the non-existent debt, or by not moving the non-existent debt ceiling back 2 more years, the quote true conservatives just stopped you from getting more of your money returned to you by taxes than and they keep more money in the government for a bigger government. In effect, they just voted for the exact opposite of what they tell you they want, and don't think for a second that they don't know that. Stay right there. Got to talk to you about what KJP said from the White House podium about what not funding the government or what a government shutdown could mean for the transition. Stay right there. I want to get a couple of ad reads in. Of course, I'm going to tell you about Sweetamine because they've been on the show for a year and we love them. Sweetamine, if you're suffering from chronic pain, it works because it's composed mainly of the amino acid glycine, and that's the nutrient our immune system uses to regulate inflammation. Most of the diseases that make people sick and die these days are rooted in chronic inflammation, mainly due to a glycine deficiency. All those aches and pains that we feel as we get older, mainly due to chronic inflammation. Well, once daily serving of Sweetamine provides 8 grams of glycine, and that's enough to stop all excess inflammation right where it starts. With once daily Sweetamine, most people feel the reduction in pain after just a couple of days. Sweetamine's great for recovery after workouts as well. A 12-day challenge trial pack of Sweetamine is only $19.95 with free shipping, and it's sold completely risk-free. Use Sweetamine just like sugar in your favorite beverage, in a smoothie, put it in a protein shake, take it any way you want. All natural Sweetamine contains no sugar, no carbs, only has 24 calories. It's perfectly safe for diabetics. All you have to do is go to sweetamine.com. That's SWEETAMINE.com, or call 855-GET-SWEET. That's 855-438-7933. Again, that's sweetamine.com, 855-GET-SWEET, or 855-438-7933. Use the promo code Sean, S-E-A-N, and you will get a $5 discount. Also, folks, we are in crunch time right now. A new administration will be sworn in soon, but as great as that is, that also means our enemies have days left to stir up trouble. That could mean a cyber attack, an invasion, or God forbid, a nuclear strike. So until the longtime bureaucrats are out of Washington, I'm not taking any chances, and you shouldn't either. That's why I have an emergency food supply from My Patriot Supply. Right now, they're offering $100 off their 3-month emergency food kit. It's got 2,000 calories per day for 3 whole months, plenty to get you through even a prolonged emergency. All their food kits last up for 25 years in storage. They come in rugged, weatherproof buckets. All you got to do, preparewithvnn.com right now to order your 3-month emergency food kit. I've got an emergency food supply in my home because my safety and security is worth it. I'm not taking any chances with my family, and you shouldn't either, folks. It's all about being prepared, not paranoid. Nothing wrong with being prepared. So go to preparewithvnn.com, order your 3-month emergency food kit now. Promo code VNN. That's preparewithvnn.com. Order your 3-month emergency food kit. $100 off. You cannot beat it. Okay. What the hell is KJP saying from the White House podium? Oh, I mean, what does a government shutdown mean? Could it affect the transition? I don't know, but let's listen to see what KJP thinks.
Committed to a responsible transition, and as you know, his team, he and his team has certainly been working towards that. The team has been preparing for months to make sure that happens. I will say, though, if there is a shutdown, and I don't want to get too much into hypotheticals, but this is the reality, transition activities will be restricted. And with limited exceptions, obviously, but such as prevent imminent threats to the safety of human life or the protection of property. Those are the things that we would that we would have to be concerned about. And so we're doing everything to ensure a smooth transition, but the choice to allow a transition to move forward is in the hands of Republicans in Congress.
Oh, great. White House press secretary KJP warns that a government shutdown could delay the transition of power from Biden to Trump. Oh, isn't that the scariest shit you've ever heard in your life? That's just great. So now, as if we have to worry, oh, government shutdown. Oh, what are we going to do? The apocalypse is coming. Government workers might not get paid. By the way, welcome to the rest of the world, everybody. Like, welcome to being a private citizen, having to work your ass off to actually make a living, work paycheck to paycheck, maybe not have a great benefits package. That's just the rest of the world that we live in. If business is tough, maybe you get paid less. If you have your own business, I mean, you're paycheck to paycheck, month to month, but not if you're a government employee. So yeah, that should give you all warm and fuzzy going into the new year. Hey, we could be stuck with the animated corpse in the White House because the government could shut down. So Republicans in Congress, along with this is all the reason in the world to make sure that the government is well funded, even for a couple of months. We don't want any mistakes with the transition of power. We want a seamless transition to President Trump in office. Okay, I've got Bryan Dean Wright on deck. I want to thank B. Harris for the Rumble Rant tip. She said, Merry Christmas, Battleground crew. Thanks to you, Sean. We love your show. Say hi to Melanie from Barb and Glen Harris in Beaver County. Well, we love you too. Thank you all for the Rumble Rants tips. Merry Christmas to you all as well. You're the best audience in the world. We're really grateful to have you. We love having you every single day on the show. So thank you. Okay, so without further ado, I've got my good buddy, Bryan Dean Wright, dressed up and looking dapper, host of the Wright Report, former CIA operations officer. Bryan, welcome, my friend. Merry Christmas.
Same to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. What do you think about the government shutdown could keep, maybe mess with the transition of power?
There's always something, isn't there, to keep us all up at night. This sounds like, you wake up Christmas morning, you open up a present, just a lump of coal. I don't like it. I don't want it. Look, I've lived through, and you probably have as well, a lot of different government shutdowns in the past. As a government worker, when I was at the CIA, I loved them. They were amazing because we got rid of the vast majority of the bureaucrats inside of headquarters at Langley. So if you were in the field or you were at headquarters, you got a lot more done because there were far fewer people to have to, kind of like a dog. You get a bunch of dogs peeing on a tree. Same kind of thing in the government. You get rid of some of the dogs, things get done faster. That really is how the agency works too. So I think we actually could see some more productivity, incredibly enough. But yeah, I think that the one thing that concerns me beyond, Biden remaining there for God only knows how long, is this issue of a credit rating. So when we have different credit ratings look at our debt, they potentially could bump up interest rates or, downgrade our debt effectively, which would bump up interest rates. And we got $36 trillion in national debt. So
Yeah.
that's one of the concerns I have about this. The more that we monkey around without having a solution, that could affect our bottom line in that way.
Well, especially when you consider that $37 trillion in debt, it's so oppressive that we can't even afford the interest payments right now. I mean, I think, and I've actually been saying this since we were only 14 trillion in debt. Imagine that, only 14 trillion in debt. But even back then, as a percent of GDP, it still represented a grave national security threat. The fact that it's just insane to me that just a good example, like in the first 1,547 page continuing resolution had a pay raise of like $73,000 a year pay raise. So not only is that more than the average pay annual salary of the American people, it's also they're giving themselves a pay raise when they're the ones that caused the inflation in the first place. It just seems so ridiculous to me,
Yeah. Look, I think this is going to be a really important debate over the next year because Donald Trump, like a lot of other guys in the world of business, actually don't get too upset about debt. They think we can either grow our way out of it or fundamentally they understand this, and they're not wrong, that there's really no other debt out there for other nations or other big investors to buy other than our treasury bills and bonds and the rest of it. So long as we don't have any competition, we can keep the money machine printing, and we can issue all kinds of debt, and we're going to be probably okay for some period of time. But the moment that there is competition for the U.S. dollar and our debt, that's when our debt becomes a lot more expensive because we're going to have to go out into the marketplace to try to entice more people to buy our debt, right? So when there's this other competition, it doesn't exist yet. But when that day comes, it's kind of like musical chairs, right? The music stops. you're in trouble. And that's why you don't want to have $36+ trillion in debt. You want to keep that debt low so that when the world changes, and we won't always be the preeminent global power, the US dollar will not be the preeminent currency in the world. That will change. That has never, ever, look at history. There's no like Roman currency right now.
Right.
It's all going to go away. So that's why it's so important for thinking about 2, 3, 4 generations ahead. Get that debt as low as possible. Don't put a big burden on them so that they have some flexibility to keep this country going in whatever way it changes in the decades and centuries to come. That should be the goal. And that, to me, is why this debt issue really matters.
Bryan, I want to give you some kudos about something that you've been saying since you've been coming on the show for the last several months. That, I mean, you have been saying, I feel like quite passionately, Biden's not there. He's the commander in chief. There's something really wrong here. Our enemies see this. Our allies see this. Confidence in America is plummeted because of that. People,
Helen Keller could see it.
Yeah. Helen.
Blind people can see it. Yes. Yeah.
And the Wall Street Journal, I mean, to me, too little, too late, comes out with an expose. I mean, anyone with eyes and ears could have seen it. That's the crazy thing. I mean, here I am using the left-wing language that it's some sort of expose. We all knew it all along, but Biden has his cabinet, it has staffers and his wife sitting in on cabinet level meetings, making decisions on behalf of the country. Like, nobody elected a chief of staff. Nobody elected a national security advisor. Yet in this article, it says, oh, Biden's too tired, couldn't make it through meetings, wasn't cognitively sharp enough to ask the right questions, couldn't even understand the subject matter of what was discussed. And now we find out, according to the New York Post, another subsequent piece was written to the Wall Street Journal. It came out today that Biden rejected a call, a couple of days or maybe even a couple of months rather before the Afghan surrender from the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, warning him that Afghanistan could be at risk of imminent collapse. You were right about all of this stuff. And now it's just what drives me crazy about this, I guess, and I'll just turn it over to you. But it just seems like the media and many of the people that are reporting on this now are just trying to cover their ass and say, look, I reported on it, maybe a little bit late, but I reported on it just as Biden leaves the White House, and there's not a political cost to do it.
Yeah. CNN's former Chris Kaliza, he admitted this week that, gosh, he should have covered Biden's dementia or brain-related whatever many years ago. He said that when he tried to or even started to scratch into the issue, he was told by the White House, oh, that's ageist. How very ageist of you. What a terrible thing. And you know what? He said that got to him, to which I want to actually punch the guy in the face because I'm like, friend, your job as a journalist is to not make friends with people inside of the White House. That's not your job. Your job is to ask simple, basic questions and follow up, even if that makes people in power angry. That's the whole effing reason we have a press, to hold people with power to account. So if you're not doing that, so what's your job? You're just a sycophant. You're just a propagandist. And that's really what we have. And that's the point, isn't it? That the modern journalism in this country is not journalism at all. They may cloak themselves. They may throw that cloak around themselves saying that they're journalists, but they're not. They're propagandists because they don't want to upset a Democrat politician and his family or staff. So that is, I think, the remarkable and horrifying moment that we have seen building up for years. You go back to 2004 or so, we got some great data that about 94%, give or take, of journalists back in the early 2000s were giving, when they did, to the Democrat Party or Democrats. So this is now the consequence of that, of generations of journalists who aren't journalists at all, but they're party members and they're propagandists. So of course they're going to look the other way when the king doesn't in fact have any clothes on, right? Wow. The old parable, right? So that is the moment, and that's what we're seeing. And by the way, the NBC, Chuck Todd has reported on this years ago, that when he was talking to cabinet members, they were telling him there's no way this guy's going to make it another 3 years. He has clearly a case of dementia. My own sources, by the way, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Biden got his brain disease dementia diagnosis back at about 2017. So this is—
Wait, for real? This is for real?
For real, yeah.
It's actual dementia diagnosis?
The diagnosis is something related to dementia, but the family knew, and Mr. Biden knew that his time was short, and he and the family got a bunch of different medications and second opinions and tried to basically prop this guy up because he and the family desperately wanted the presidency. He wanted to run in 2020. He thought it was his chance to win. 2016 was supposed to be his race. Of course, that didn't work out, did it? So the point is, he and the family needed it. And we also know that Hunter Biden, of course, was out there vacuuming up cash for the family. So it wasn't just because the Bidens wanted to be in the White House for pride or ego, but this was a corrupt family that wanted cash. So it's kind of a myriad of things that if we had had a press doing its job, asking hard questions, and then reporting on it instead of, falling over when they hear the ageist comment, which is, another leftist flim-flam thing, and just holding people to account, kind of like they did with Trump, by the way. That guy could walk down, a wet staircase, and it's like, oh, he's got dementia. No, okay, it's a wet staircase.
That's so true.
So
That's a great point.
They're clearly they're propagandists, and they're propping up their guy, and now they're trying to run away from it. So it really is, I think, big picture, a degree of corruption and rot in this country, and it is why, frankly, so many people out there are so sick and tired of mainstream press, and they're turning to guys like you, or they're turning into my podcast and others, and they're looking for different kinds of information, people to be honest and straight with them. And I think that that's the moment in which we live, Biden aside. But yeah, gosh, thinking about what has happened over the past 4 years, all the different national security concerns, it makes you wonder who's really approved that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Syria right now. So we know one of the things you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think, we have encouraged the Ukrainian military to link up with those HTS Islamists that have just taken over Syria. Those Ukrainian military folks have given their drones and sent in drone trainers to these Islamic radicals. Well, who approved that? Somebody at the White House did, or the Pentagon, or the CIA. Who was that?
Yes.
That person should probably be the commander in chief, kicking the tires on the deal, thinking about the day after. So, what happens when we provide these drones to these Islamists in Syria or other places? What are the potential, second and third orders of effect? Those are the kinds of tough and important questions on just the issue of Syria that a commander in chief who's smart needs to be asking. We have not had that for 4 years. I assure you, over the next number of years, we are going to be finding all kinds of horrible things that some entities at the CIA or the Pentagon have approved of that we all now have to live with. I guarantee you, we're going to hear more of those stories.
Wow. God, that's pretty scary. I mean, I think, the silver lining in a lot of what you said is that the media has lost so much power because of Elon Musk and what he did with Twitter. And of course, he's drawn the ire of many of those, very same people in the media because they blame him for, their inability to control the narrative. And, what he gave us with X is essentially a decentralized citizen journalist, which has done unbelievable things. I really do think it played a critical role, not just in this election, but in our ability to get the truth out there before a lie can even take root. And in this day and age, that is so important. And it really, these propagandists in the deep state are really going to have to figure out what to do. They're going after Elon Musk. They're suing him. They're trying SEC investigating him, purchase of Twitter, like just doing all the lawfare stuff.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world. And I think he could be the first trillionaire. And frankly, I don't think he cares that much about it because he has all the money in the world to deal with it. And, so that brings me to this terrorist attack, or what's become a terrorist attack in Germany. The news on that was reported, Brian, on X before any real mainstream outlet actually reported it. Like the fact that we knew that this was a terrorist attack on X before any mainstream outlet put it out there. And just to give you a sense of what this is, The Guardian, listen to these headlines. So the truth is already out there on X, right? This is kind of a new dynamic for us. But if we didn't have X, these headlines would have come out. 1 killed and several injured in The Guardian, right? After car drives into Christmas market. NBC News. Dozens feared injured after vehicle plows into crowd in Christmas market. ABC News. Car drives into crowd at Christmas market in Germany. DW, Germany. Car driven into crowd. It's like the same headline over and over and over again. And if it wasn't for X, like, how long would it take for us to find out that this was actual terrorism?
Yeah. Well, isn't it interesting that when we hear of these kinds of things with a gun, it's not a gun killed 4 people. It's a madman. It's the person, right? So I think that there's a really interesting, to this point of media and bias, whether it be in the headlines or the stories. You bet. A lot of folks in the media know that the vast majority of us, 60 to 80%, depending on the number you look at, only read headlines. So if it's just a car ran into people, oh, well, you know, things happen, right? Or, you know, maybe it's one of those automatic driving cars where there's no human in it. Okay, but then obviously we're going to spin that differently with a gun. So you're right, big picture, X, I think, is going to be and already is a very, very important platform to getting out truth. Sometimes it's not going to be fully the truth. Sometimes there's
Right.
going to be some fake news as well. We saw that and have seen that. But look, this week in the shutdown, how many of us would have actually gotten smart on that issue, rallied around the trying to defeat it because it was such a 15-page or 1,500-page pile of baloney, but X allowed for that conversation. So, but getting back to this issue in Germany, what a horrific, horrific terror attack it is. We're learning more, of course. The video, I think, is going to be very powerful for a lot of Germans who are going to be going to the polls in the next number of weeks about what kind of country they want. So not only in Germany, but throughout Europe, and really the United States, we have 9 million plus people in this country we didn't vet over the past 4 years when, you know, Biden was being puppeteered by whomever. This is important, and platforms like X are going to give us a really important opportunity to blast through the propaganda and have honest conversations with each other.
Brian, I mean, I want to get your thoughts on the two things. I want to get your thoughts on the actual terrorist attack. What happened? Obviously, you know, a terrorist drove a car through a Christmas market in Germany. I mean, they're going to be. I mean, I think there's already 11 reported dead. There are probably going to be hundreds injured. I'm not going to show the video on the show because it was horrifying. But the breadth of the problem, when you talk about, you know, 10 plus million people coming in here, we don't know who they are, but also Europe also being overwhelmed with Islamists. It's just a fact. I know it might be politically incorrect to say it, but it's true. You look at the estimated Muslim populations in Europe and European countries as of 2016, France, 5.7 million, Germany, 4.9 million, the UK, 4.1 million, Italy, 2.8, Netherlands, 1.2, Spain, 1.1. This is unchecked migration has paved the way for these countries to be annihilated. I hate to say it like that, but it's just true, Brian. And I'm sorry to say the motivation, but we don't know what the motivation is. And I hate to speculate, but guys from Saudi Arabia, it's like a holy holiday, right? It's a holy day for Muslims. We're going into Christmas time. I mean, some sort of Islamic extremism here. I mean, I would think, right?
Yeah, look, in the minutes and the hours and the days ahead, we're going to learn more about this gentleman. I think he's 50, 60-year-old Saudi national, went to Germany back in 2006. Like a lot of others in the North Africa and the Middle East, they went into Europe over the past 25 plus years, but they were called to come to Europe. They were encouraged to come to Europe. It was part of this sort of leftist ideal that, you know, we can all hold hands and get along, and let's just open up the borders and let people flow in. And that is what we have seen from Sweden to Italy to France, Germany, and beyond. And unfortunately, those people either weren't vetted properly for criminality, or they certainly were not vetted for cultural fit and cultural appropriateness.
I mean, how could they be? How could they be?
Correct.
They just show, you know, it's crazy.
So in 2011, when the Syria civil war really kicked off, we had a lot of refugees flowing into Europe. That, at the time, the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, you and I've talked about her, she just became, her nickname was Mama Merkel. And she said, just basically, come into my country, unvetted, and we'll take care of you. And because of the German social state, they are taken care of. They get a lot of something for nothing. So, of course, you're going to create an additional magnet for all kinds of people. Well, we have seen over the past 20 years some horrific attacks. This latest Christmas attack, if in fact it is by an Islamist, won't be the first. We have seen it in Berlin with dozens killed. We have seen there was a New Year's celebration in a German city where, gosh, I think it was over 100 people, maybe even dramatically more women were raped by Islamists who had come into the country. And it's not just Germany. We have seen this in France. There was a teacher who was beheaded by one of his students,
right,
because he held up a picture of Muhammad. It was a cartoon, and that was considered blasphemous. So the migrant from, I believe it was North Africa or the Middle East, beheaded his teacher. And this is not rare. I am sorry to say, Sweden, you and I have talked about this before. They're offering $34,000 a head to get any is Muslim or migrant to go back home. The government is now asking them to do that, $34,000 a pop, in part because that country, Sweden, is overrun by migrant and Islamist gangs. They are recruiting kids as young as 9 years old, giving these 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds $10,000 to $40,000 in cash to bomb and kill targets in places like Sweden and the Netherlands and Denmark and Spain. So this is an issue that started 20, 30 plus years ago by leftist governments saying, opening up their borders, and now Europe has a disaster. And over the past 4 or 5 years, it's starting to really change governments. A lot of Europeans, the natives, are saying, enough. They're starting to change. And in fact, you may have seen Elon Musk. He endorsed a party. It's called the AfD in Germany.
Yeah, and Chris Murphy, the Democrat senator from Connecticut, I think, is out there saying that, Elon Musk endorsed a neo-Nazi party and Trump's a neo-Nazi, and basically he was just out there today saying this.
Yeah. Well, Chris Murphy, that college grad. The point is, everybody who looks at this issue and understands what's going on, we all know that there's a profound crisis in Europe. They have let in way too many people from North Africa and the Middle East who were not vetted or were not appropriate culturally. So that issue now, getting rid of those people, how do you get rid of them? Can you? That is now tearing apart the European continent. And we are seeing it in some horrific ways, probably in this Christmas attack. If not, there have been others. And so for a guy like Chris Murphy, who is a leftist, who wants to maintain that they are on some sort of moral high ground here in terms of their open borders policies, which we've seen in this country and he would support, it leads to disaster. And that's why a lot of us are now waking up, I think, in this country saying, look, I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, shut down the damn border, vet the people. That is just smart. That is not a partisan issue. And if you disagree, then I think you're just trying to destroy the country or destroy Europe. And that's what I think a lot of voters across the pond are thinking too.
I completely agree. It's not just, here's the thing, the crazy thing. This is definitely a liberal, caused by socialist liberals, like these globalist socialists. This is a problem, as you articulated, caused by them. But you have the foreign minister of the United Arab Emirates coming out and saying, be careful what you wish for, because there's going to be some bad shit happening. Of course, he did not say bad shit. He was a little bit more eloquent, but listen to this, and I want to get your reaction to this. Check this out.
And let me say this in English so you can understand what I'm saying.
I have translation.
No, I know you have translation, but I just want to make sure you get it right. There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
So he's exactly right. And I'm glad that he said that, but he came out today in the wake of this horrific attack and said, I told you so.
Yeah. Look, what's so important for folks to know about that video, in 2017 is when he said those words. He and other Arab leaders were talking about this for years. This is not a shock to anyone. It's not a shock to anyone in Washington, D.C. It's not a shock to anyone in Brussels or any other capital in Europe. They all knew that this was coming. They talked to these Arab leaders. They knew that opening their borders to unvetted Islamists or Arabs, the Arabs knew they already had a problem with radical Islam, and they've been working on it for decades. So why would it be smart for us to open our borders and accept some of their riffraff? What he was saying in 2017 was so wise and so important. But leftist politics and the media that we just talked about, the same media that wouldn't acknowledge that dementia was real and inside of the mind of Joe Biden, they won't let us have those conversations, or they've been preventing us from being honest about that. And if we dare said it, if we dare had the audacity to speak truth, we would do, I think, as some of us have done, and that is we'll keep our mouths shut, or we'll be branded as bigots and racists. Or some of us, if I may say, one of the things that I think a lot of us now are reflexively doing is we'll say, oh, look, I don't want to be racist, or I don't want to be bigoted, and I know this is politically incorrect, but let me tell you what I think about this. I think we got an Islam problem in Europe. Well, it's not politically incorrect. It shouldn't be. It's the truth. So we can have the strength and the courage to just say what's happening. In fact, you and I talked about, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, the police chief in Berlin was telling gay people and Jewish people don't go into certain parts of Berlin because of the Islamists. So this is not some sort of conspiracy theory. This is not some sort of radical, whatever political ideology. This is simply a recognition of the truth that if you're a gay person in Berlin, you better not go into that neighborhood because the Muslims will kill you or beat the crap out of you. Same for the Jews. So this is real. It's important, and it's time that we are honest about it, irrespective of what the leftists in our media and the leftists in the media in Europe, or the socialists and the communists that run most of Europe or have for decades. We need to be honest about that stuff. And that's the same thing in the Democrat Party in this country. We've had enough. And I think that's what Trump's election really, really spoke to.
You know, Brian, it's like it's hard to imagine that here we are in the year of 2024 going into 2025. And it's like, you know, you got 86 Sharia courts, I think, in the UK that they just like said, okay, you can't do this anymore, which is a step in the right direction. But you've got gay people that can't go into neighborhoods without being risk of being beat to death. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable. Jews that can't go into certain areas. And this is why I say that these Democrats, like these radical leftists, they're not progressive. They're the definition of regressive. And when you talk about whatever their globalist goals are of like, hey, you know, we're all we do is empire build. And because of that, you know, we've got to level the playing field over the last 40 years. So all these countries that, you know, that were colonial, you know, we're colonies or colonialists or whatever the hell the left-wing word is, like, we're going to let these people flood into our countries. I mean, all of that is ridiculously regressive. It's just like, this is the thing that drives me crazy. When the whole concept of moral relativism, I encountered this in grad school after having just come back from Afghanistan, and it kind of blew my mind, where they were arguing that just, hey, look, that's just how things in Afghanistan are. Like they rape and they torture children over there. Like it doesn't mean they're bad. It's just how they've been I'm like, no, that means they're bad. I don't give a shit. Like our culture, the Western way of life, our culture is more refined. It's better than their antiquated way, their stone age way of thinking. And I don't understand why we're afraid to say that. We should be proud of where we come from. We should be proud of our culture. And we're not stoning women to death in the streets, for God's sake. We're not making women wear veils. We're not beating gay people to death. Like, I don't understand why we're so afraid to say, Western culture is better than what they have. I just don't get it. I don't get it, Brian.
I think two things can be true here. One, we can say, look, other cultures and other religions are free to do as they would like. It's not our place necessarily. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom to that. I think I go back to President Washington talking about, you know, his fears of us getting involved in foreign entanglements. It's okay to say, look, we got all these different places around the world. We don't need to necessarily convert the masses to whoever we are. Fine. That doesn't mean that we then need to open our borders to them. Or if we are going to allow some of those people from some of those places that we don't understand or like, damn right, we better be vetting those people and find some of their moderates, whatever that means. Or no, we don't allow them in. And that's just how a tribe and how a country retains its life. That's why you have borders. You decide who comes in, right? And if you don't like somebody, you throw them out. Pretty basic stuff. Humanity has functioned around this idea for a long, long time. But you bring up something really important. You said that you were at getting your master's degree and beyond. And the point is that when we become sort of bourgeois, when we become wealthy, we end up going to these places where we are separated from real life. And these professors oftentimes, and these folks who are writing these various books, they're caught up in their ivory towers in a world that isn't real. They get to think about problems because they're very wealthy, but they're not actually living in those problems. You know, others I know have commented on this, and it's important. You're not seeing a lot of these 9 million illegals camped out at Martha's Vineyard, or
they got them out of there in less than 24 hours. Remember that?
That is correct.
DeSantis sent them there. They had a bus there waving goodbye. Get the hell out of here within 24 hours.
Because for their minds, it's a wonderful thing to talk about, this sort of Marxist ideal or this idea of sitting on our ivory towers as the bourgeois, and then all the plebes get to deal with the problems. We just get to think about them and sit back, you know, with our cocktail. That is where a lot of this crap comes from. And that's why we have seen over the past 20, 30 years, these bourgeois and
You gotta
academics.
do
Not
your
to-
your bourgeois voice, like, "Oh, hey,
oh,
darling, get these people
yes,
out
yes.
here, darling."
Buffy, darling, please. Bring me the scotch. Yes, yes. Gentlemen, what would you like? Yes. Make that 3, darling, quickly. Yes, we're going to redesign the map of Ukraine. Yes, I'm going to take the coal. I think the boys will take the titanium. We'll keep you posted, darling. Yes, yes.
With the monocle and a top hat.
Right. Yeah. I do a lot of great voices, by the way. It's
Very good. It's very good.
It's weird that I'm single. No one understands how it happened. I don't know.
Okay. Let's shift gears. I want to
Anyway.
talk about some of the medical research. Can I take a quick break and come right back to you?
Let's do it.
All right, stay right there. We're going to talk about some of the medical research and positive stuff going into the holiday with Bryan Dean Wright. More in just a second. Let me tell you about Birch Gold. Obviously, both Brian and I are still getting over being sick. So as I'm reading this gold stuff, smash that like button, that little green thumb beneath the video. Open a gold IRA with Birch Gold Group and get free silver coins shipped directly to your home. That's right. It's the most wonderful time of the year. The time of year when Birch Gold gives away a free silver American Eagle coin for every $5,000 purchase. Here's the best part. You don't have to pay a penny out of pocket. By December 20th, simply convert an existing IRA or 401k into tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals, and Birch Gold will send your free silver coins directly to your home. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Trump's back in the Oval Office. Things are really, really good. But the reality is we're $36 trillion in debt. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we can't even afford to pay the interest on the debt, let alone the principal. So really better safe than sorry, battle crew. Take action now to protect your savings. Text the word Sean, S-E-A-N, to 989898 for a free info kit on gold and to claim your eligibility for free silver on your purchase from Birch Gold. But you have to do this by December 20th, folks. Again, text Sean to number 989898. December 20th is today. So today's the deadline. Text Sean, S-E-A-N, to 989898 for free peace of mind that lasts longer than 4 years. Okay. Got some stuff, medical stuff. Bryan Dean Wright is back with us, host of a great podcast called the Wright Report Daily podcast. I subscribe to it. You should too. A former CIA operations officer. Okay. So Brian, let's talk about medical news. Swedish studies, farm kids have fewer allergies than the rest of us. I am always wondering, where did these peanut allergies come from? When I was a kid, I feel like people didn't have them. Now every kid has an allergy. What's going on?
All right. So thinking of, before the break, we were talking about just sort of modern life in the past 30 years and how things have changed and maybe disconnected from the real world. Well, this study actually fits into that. So you're quite right. Over the past 30 or 40 years, what we found is that kids are increasingly getting more and more kinds of allergies, from seasonal to seasonal to food allergies. So why is that? Well, there's been a lot of debate about this. Well, one of the things that scientists have known for a number of years now is that kids from farms tend to have dramatically fewer numbers of allergies of all kinds. So why is that? Well, the researchers in Sweden, bless their hearts, they did something terrible. They collected poop of children,
sweet
infants.
Jesus.
Yes, bless them. Well, their idea here is that perhaps the reason has to do with the gut, that all the various bacteria and flora and viruses and all kinds of the soup that is in the gut, that is the reason for the allergies, both the fewer of them or more of them. So they collected feces, as it were, poop of little infants, little babies from the diapers. Then they get at age 2 and then 4 and then 8. And they looked at all of the various bacteria makeup of the various feces over the years. And they found something really remarkable. They compared it, the kids that are on farms and they interacted with a lot of animals, compared it to the second group, kids in cities with no exposure to animals. And then third, a group of kids who in the cities, but they had pets. What they found was that the kids that were in the cities, irrespective of whether or not they had a pet, they did not have a very mature or as mature gut system as that child did growing up on the farm. So in other words, an infant becoming a toddler and then a youngster, their guts tend to mature a lot faster than a child that's growing up in a city, irrespective of what they're exposed to. That, they believe, is then part of the underlying reason for why kids growing up in these ag communities tend to have better immune systems and stronger guts, because they're just exposed to more stuff at a younger and younger age. So it's a pretty interesting piece of research that I think, again, connects to this idea of the past really 100 years, where because of the Industrial Revolution, we've moved away from farms and we've moved into cities and we work at factories and office buildings, all kinds of probably great things because of that. Most of us would probably say that's true. But as it turns out, we're kind of just an animal at heart and gut. And that really does affect our quality of life. And so we're learning a lot more about that as time marches on. This really gets into what Bobby Kennedy Jr. is talking about around our health and making America healthy again. How do we do that? I think studies like this are going to be part of that, which is we're separating ourselves from what humans need, which is exposure to land and nature. And yeah, some critters affects our guts.
That is very, very interesting. So as we become more advanced and remove from nature, the more allergies we have is essentially essentially what the research found. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I wonder if over time, like why I saw less of it when I was a kid. Now I think some folks would say, well, we're just better at diagnosing it today, but I'm not so sure that that's true.
In terms of allergies, that actually has been documented that kids are getting more and more allergies. It's not just a diagnosis issue or we're suddenly diagnosing more. It's a very demonstrated clear fact that we are suffering from more allergies, both from a seasonal perspective, but also food. So this study, I think, really is an important part of trying to understand why that is. And science has been talking about this for a long, long time. So it's a really important thing. And in fact, there may even be a connection with this and something else that we talked about a good number of weeks ago or months ago now, which is when a child, as an infant, is getting antibiotics, it increases, it appears, their chances of developing autism. And the link, it's believed, that we're changing the gut, which of course has a profound implication or impact on the brain and its development. So the younger that you introduce antibiotics into a child's body, an infant's body, especially in that first 6 to 12 months, you potentially are damaging then the brain because you're messing around with the gut. So there's a lot of really important research on this around the gut for all kinds of things, to include from autism, yes, to food allergies, and even dementia, of course, later on in life. There's appears to be a very clear connection between things like Alzheimer's and dementia and gut health.
Wow. I wonder if this also relates to all the autoimmune diseases as well.
There is, I will tell you, one of the most, I think, fascinating areas of medical research right now in the world of medicine is the gut, is trying to understand, what does a healthy gut look like? How does that mature and change as you get older? And then, in fact, one of the things that we've seen for older adults is the type of bacteria, it starts to change as well. That starts to degrade. So perhaps that's part of the reason why, from a supplement perspective, we might be able to reintroduce new stuff into our guts to help us. By the way, this has lots of implications for, say, colon cancer and other kinds of cancers as well. So this really is an important part of medicine, and it gets into our diet as well, which we can touch on regarding high fructose corn syrup and drugs and other things this morning.
Yeah, I mean, let's transition to the Make America Healthy Again agenda and Trump's statement that he doesn't support vaccine mandates. And so we talked prior to the show about why do we mandate some things like polio shots, but not others like the flu.
Yeah, so this is really important as we think about the next number of months, and I guarantee you Bobby Kennedy is going to get hammered even more over the vaccine stuff in this issue of mandates. Trump is going to get hit too, saying he doesn't want mandates. Well, why not? All right. For decades, people have got to understand in public health, there are two kinds of vaccines, roughly speaking. There are sterilizing and therapeutic. The therapeutic are ones that you and I mostly know of, like the flu vaccine. You're still going to get sick. You're just not going to get quite as sick or as long, but you're going to get sick, and you will then obviously give it to others. Now, your viral load of flu may be lower, so maybe you don't give it to as many people, but you're still going to pass on the flu. The flu vaccine is thus therapeutic. It helps you, maybe, depending on the year. And the benefit is private. It just helps you. You're still going to get other people infected. All right. The other kind of vaccine is sterilizing. When that virus gets into your body because of the vaccine, the sterilizing vaccine, it primes your immune system to immediately attack it. So you don't have symptoms because you don't get sick. It destroys the virus. As a general rule, that's how sterilizing vaccines work. That is why public health officials have said, all right, in this case, a sterilizing vaccine, when you take it, there is a personal benefit because you're not going to get sick, but there's also a profound public benefit. You're not going to pass it along to other people, to include other kids at school or wherever. So that has been the argument for a long, long time by public health officials of why they might mandate, let's say, the polio vaccine or measles, mumps, and rubella, but not something like the flu vaccine, personal versus private benefit, sterilizing versus therapeutic. So if you understand that is the foundation for vaccines, then we've got the COVID vaccine. Well, we threw out decades and decades of vaccine science and public health understanding, and we told people, that is to say, Tony Fauci and others, you are mandated to take this therapeutic vaccine. It only has personal benefit for you. Maybe. Now, what do we learn about that? You got to get a booster every, about 3 hours for that thing to work. The point is, it's a therapeutic vaccine. If you want to take it, knock yourself out. You're still going to get sick, and you're still going to spread it to other people. Again, much like the flu vaccine, it may lower your viral load, so you are passing it along to fewer people. But at the end of the day, public health officials have long said those kinds of vaccines should never be mandated. And yet Tony Fauci and others did, which raises the question, well, why the hell they do that? This starts to get into like mRNA or mRNA technology. They're trying to find a different way to create vaccines. We were all guinea pigs is the bottom line, but that's a different conversation. The point is, future forward, when we have conversations about vaccines, I would encourage people, I would offer that folks remember the difference between therapeutic and sterilizing, and the implication then for mandates when it comes to then a private benefit versus public benefit.
Wow. Okay. Can I ask you one more question before I let you go? You're always very generous with your time, and I appreciate it. But okay, the cause of uptick in cancers of young people, and it's linked to high fructose corn syrup, and RFK Jr. is like all about getting rid of these things. Like, give us a sense of what's going on with all this.
Okay, this is really important because next week we got the holidays, and we're going to be putting a lot of stuff on our bellies. So up until the 1960s and into the 70s and 80s, the average person in this country consumed about 1 gallon a year of fructose. And that's a sugar that you will find in fruits and vegetables. But after the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, with the creation of high fructose corn syrup, we started consuming 15 gallons a year per person. So we went from 1 gallon of fructose to 15 gallons. So why does that matter? Does it matter? Well, it certainly corresponds with the obesity epidemic. We're putting more of these kinds of sugars into our bodies. But what scientists have released a study this week, I believe it was the University of Michigan and Washington University, their medical school, talked about this. When that high fructose corn syrup gets into your liver, it produces a kind of lipid. That lipid is like rocket fuel for tumor growth. So we are putting this stuff into our systems that if you actually put the high fructose corn syrup on a tumor, it doesn't do anything. But once it gets into the liver, that converts it into a type of a lipid that then goes into the cell structure of these tumors and is just like rocket fuel for it. So what these researchers are suggesting is, look, if you want to prevent cancer, you should really look at your consumption of sugars in general, but certainly high fructose corn syrup. Second, if you are already diagnosed with cancer, cut back on that stuff. This also, by the way, matches some research out of Israel that shows that if you engage in high intensity exercise, HIIT training, it's called, that actually is beneficial even if you have metastatic cancer, because you're starving, you're creating a scarcity of sugars in your body, glucose, that the tumors need to grow. So by creating that scarcity, you're causing the tumors then to either shrink or not grow in size. So some important implications for the next number of months as we're talking about making America healthy again, Bobby Kennedy's argument against high fructose corn syrup. We're now starting to understand the exact mechanism by which that becomes so deadly and so dangerous for us. So put that under your thinking cap as you go into next week and you start eating a lot of stuff. Look at the labels. High fructose corn syrup. You might want to minimize the amount that you consume.
Okay, so speaking of next week, are you working next week? Are you
of course I am.
You are. You doing anything special for? Are you going to eat some cookies? I'm a cookie guy. I'm going to probably eat my weight in cookies next week.
You know, I love that for you, and the fact that your metabolism can still do it. For the rest of us,
oh, it can't. It can't do it. Like my entire life is gaining and then losing 50 pounds. The only problem is I lose all the weight just in time for sweater weather, but I lose 5 pounds. I lose 5 pounds less each time. So my point is, like, I get slowly fatter as I get older, and there's nothing I can do about it because I'm not changing what I eat. I'm just not.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. I am only going to do what I want to do, and I don't care if it kills me. Well, welcome to America, Sean. You got to do that. Bless you. I'll be there for your funeral. You know, the funny thing is, look, we all have choices. We can do whatever we want, and we're all going to die of something. So I guess if it's cookies, good for you.
It's got. I love the Christmas cookies that have the Hershey Kisses in the middle.
Look,
God bless America and Merry Christmas.
I don't yell at me. It's science. I'm just telling you what the science says. I don't make the rules, man. No, so it's next week. It's going to be a normal week for me. I'm going to be doing a lot of work and prepping for the next couple of months. And I'm looking to hire, so I'm interviewing some people. So that's going to be good fun. Otherwise, it's back to the coal mines for this guy. If you get coal this Christmas, it's probably for me. I'm the guy who's mining it.
Great.
Yeah, a lump of coal. Yeah.
So where can people find you? How can people support you?
Yeah, in the coal mines. You can find me in the coal mines working. But absent that, you can find me with Wright Report, WRIGHT, on all favorite podcast platforms. And if you want some of the data that I dig into, I provide a source document, my transcript of my show every day. That's wrightreport.substack.com. $6 a month, $70 a year. You can download those transcripts and send that research around to people.
It's the best money that you'll ever spend. You should all do that. Brian's a great guy, a great patriot. It's been great to have you on. I hope you have like a very, very Merry Christmas. Happy holiday next year or next week. And hopefully I'll see you soon.
I can't wait. Tell the Battle crew hello, and God bless y'all. Enjoy your Christmas, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. See you, my friend. Take care. All right. That is Bryan Dean Wright, one of the best in the business. We are so lucky that he gives us so much of his time. He's very gracious with it. So make sure you go subscribe. Make sure you follow. Make sure it's like, I think $6 a month. It's like $70 a year. It really is great stuff. I listen to his show every single day. It's like 30 minutes every morning. Super easy to process. Give you a sense of what's going on in the world. Okay. So we're going to talk about Good Ranchers here. I'm going to play an ad, and then we've got a very special guest coming on here just before we end the show. Commander Melanie is going to come on and wish everybody a Merry Christmas, everything like that. So stay tuned for Commander Melanie. But let me run this Good Ranchers commercial, and we will be right back. Stay right there.
What makes America great? We believe it's the fact that anyone can dream and work to make that dream come true. Good Ranchers started with the dream that American meals should come from American farms. We believe you should know the source and trust the source. With the overwhelming majority of grass-fed beef sold in the U.S. being imported from overseas, American farmers are hurting, and ranches that have been here for generations are closing for good. That's why we decided to travel the country, connect with local farms and ranches, and sit down with real Americans to find out what they needed and how we could best serve them. We then took everything we learned and we put it into our boxes. When you open a Good Ranchers box, it's not just full of 100% American meat that is steakhouse quality. It's full of a supply chain that supports American-made only. It's full of a commitment to help American farms and American families thrive. Where do you come in? You already have. You're the first domino that starts the chain. Your order enters the system, supports the farms, cuts the meat, seals the package, packs the box, loads the truck, unloads it to your door, and feeds your family. You are the fuel for Good Ranchers. You're helping keep farms open across the country and donating countless meals to those in need with your purchase. We're not here to stand in the spotlight. Our story is best when it's part of yours. We want to put the focus on those who need it and deserve it, on the farms and ranches that are continuing generations of tradition and quality, on the Americans who need a good meal and are not sure where it'll come from, on the people who want to do good and eat good, on you. This is our way of asking if we can join you for dinner. Can we have a place in the center of each plate? We'll bring the meat, you make the memories.
Okay, so definitely check out Good Ranchers. Obviously, give a warm welcome to Commander Melanie. She's looking all Christmassy. You see her right here. Just remember to visit goodranchers.com. Use the promo code VNN to claim your free gift in there's a gift in every box. You get chicken, you get seafood, you get steaks, you get whatever. It's awesome. So goodranchers.com, promo code VNN. Claim your free gift in every box, and you get $25 off. These gift boxes are really cool. They come ready-made, go right to right to the person that you want to give the gift to. So check out Good Ranchers. We love them. We're grateful. Also want to thank Sue for the Rumble Rant tip. She says, have a Merry Christmas, Sean and Melanie and family. That's very nice, right? Yes. And Sunny Days, a monthly supporter. Thank you. And Wiser, Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you for the Rumble Rants tips. Melanie?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
So tell us what we're doing. What are we doing for Christmas? You're the commander. You're in charge here.
We in prep for Christmas or for Christmas?
In prep for Christmas.
Prep for Christmas.
Speak into the microphone. You got it.
Okay. Well, put it up here for me. We're doing lots of baking. We're doing lots of cooking. We're having about 25 people over next week. Lots of wrapping.
25 people over.
25 people.
Santa is coming next week.
Yep.
It's going to be amazing, right? It's going to be amazing. Lots of wrapping. And let me tell you something about this woman. This woman is the most amazing Christmas gift wrapper ever. She's so good. You know how the wrapping has the little designs on the paper? She can actually wrap so perfectly. She doesn't waste anything. And if there's like a Christmas tree, for example, on the wrapping paper, she can cut it and make sure that the remnant Christmas tree, when you fold it, lines up with the Christmas tree so it all looks perfect.
It's the most satisfying thing.
She's amazing at it. She's very, very good at it. So I've got this boom arm right here. So we're work in progress here with the show. But folks, Merry Christmas. We love you. We're very grateful for everything that you all do for us. Thank you all for the Rumble Rants tips. You all are the best audience in the world. We're so grateful to you. See, we're looking in the live chat now. Merry Christmas to everybody. And yes, Sal, what a lovely wife. Yes, she is very lovely. I definitely married up. Did I not? I married up with this one. But yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. We love you. So again, don't forget that next week, the 23rd to the 27th, we're off just spending time with family, but then we're sprinting to the finish. Sprinting into the new year, the very next week, hitting the ground running with the show. Also, quick reminder to everybody, I'll be filling in on Jesse Kelly's nationally syndicated radio show on the 27th at night. So actually, I'm only off
4 days.
4 days.
But 4 more days than you've been off.
But it's 4 more in a few years.
We'll
yeah.
Take it.
Yes. So Jesse Kelly's radio show on Friday night from 6 to 9. And then on New Year's Eve, I'm filling in on the biggest nationally syndicated radio show in the country on Clay Travis and Buck Sexton's show on New Year's Eve. So that's
during the day.
That's during the day. That's from 12.
The show.
That's from 12 to 3, and the show Battleground Live will air that night. But that's pretty cool. 2 nationally syndicated radio shows in just a couple of days, and the biggest nationally syndicated radio show in the country on New Year's Eve. So stick with us, folks. We're growing like gangbusters because of you. But God bless you all. Have a great day. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. Have a great Christmas Eve. Have a great Christmas. Hope you get to spend it with your family. God bless you all. And God bless this amazing country that we call home. Take care. Good night. And I will see you next week, at the end of next week, at the beginning of the following week. I don't know.
No.
We'll see you on the 29th. The 30th? On the 30th. We'll see you on the 30th. We'll see you on the 30th. God bless you all. Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday. See you in about a week.